she told you, I am not medically trained. That's real important for you to understand. I am not medically trained. Okay, you all got that? My background, I had a couple of years as a research botanist, so this all fits with that. And then 33 years in law enforcement. That's my background, and we're going to talk about God's pharmacy tonight. If God is not true, then how do you know what I tell you about pharmacy is true either? So I'm going to spend about the first third talking about God, and the second third about pharmacy. There's a clipboard going around. I've got so much information here. This is such a diverse topic. I will email you these slides so you got them for future reference, okay? Make one little change this month, another change next month. Go about this slow and see how it works for your body, okay? Sometimes it takes us a long time to learn something, to think through it, and then eventually believe it. And that's how it was for me. When I got to be a conservation officer, the Lord provided that I got hooked up with probably the top law enforcement investigator in Minnesota at that time for 5 years. And he told me, we're looking for truth, and it's got to fit with reality. And I'd come out of the University of Minnesota, and all of our data interpretation was based on evolution. He says, that really doesn't work. It's got to be based on God. And I told him, you're thinking old ways, there's a lot newer information. And over about 3 years, he was able to show me that no, God is the answer. If you're taking any kind of medication, make sure whoever you're getting that from, you talk to about any changes you make in exercise, diet, or supplements. That is so important. Those things are so interactive and so poisonous, you better be careful about not making changes without talking to whoever's prescribing it. This is a complicated picture. Thousands of genes interacting with hundreds of thousands of ways. Anybody got any idea what that's about? It determines how tall you are. There's over 100,000 interactions in our body that determine how tall we are. And tonight, I hope you start to see some of the awe and wonder of God through some of these things. For your own research later, this is one of those things. I'm not even going to begin to talk about it, but you'll find that very interesting. What we are talking about is God and pharmacy. Again, evolution is where I came from. Matter and energy banging together, particles banging together. That's matter and energy. The tools of evolution are random chance, mutations, natural selection, and time. That's what I'd been taught at the University of Minnesota. That's what I believed. We've got a historical perspective available also from God. And he says, from the creation of the world, his qualities, his power, his nature, all are available for us to understand by just looking at what he made. We are without excuse. So, what's the accurate foundation? Well, I will talk about that as we go along. And the other thing in the pharmacy part, a lot of people are aging, myself included. But if we make accurate cells, we can probably slow that down. Okay, if I own this piece of land, there's a bunch of high-rises around it. I want to put up another high-rise. I'm going to have some engineers design that. And they best get the foundation right. Because if they don't, the wind comes along, and this is an actual case, not a good idea. The foundation was wrong. Accurate science does fit with reality, and we're going to see that tonight. Okay, I want each one of you to take your finger and draw a daisy in the air. Let's see. I think, there, I caught one guy. Yep, you all got to do it, okay? How did you do that? Think about it. How did you do that?
I put my finger up.
It starts with a non-material thought. Something I can't, this is a material thing. I can hold on to it. A non-material thing I can't touch or hold on to. Everything we do starts with a non-material thought. I don't think you even thought about the 23,500 kinds of asters that you could have drawn. You know, there's a lot of them. But that non-material thought is information. It has to be created by a brain. It's non-material. Our non-material thinking process can create information. And then the DNA is activated in our muscles and nerves, and then we drew the thing. But this is the key point. Everything you say and do starts with a thought, a non-material thought in your mind. That non-material aspect is really critical here. Could the daisy have created itself or drawn itself? Common sense says no. Yeah. What does science say? Well, we got the first law of thermodynamics. Matter and energy can never be created nor destroyed. I want everybody to read this out loud. Something can never come from nothing. Excellent. So we need that mind to get information going. If something can't come from nothing, then that means the universe either is eternal, existed forever, or it's supernaturally created. Okay? The second law of thermodynamics says things keep breaking down. Have you experienced that in your life? Yeah. Okay? But that says, now we just saw, first law says that the universe has to be either eternal or created. Second law says the universe cannot be eternal, because if it were eternal, everything would be at zero. These particles would be no longer moving around. It'd be at absolute zero by now if it was eternal. So the bottom line is, first and second law of thermodynamics say the universe had to have been created. So what does science say? No, the daisy couldn't have made itself. There had to be a creator of it, and a mind, an eternal mind to make that information. So, are you familiar with any of these words? Do you think they're real? Do you think there's such a thing as love or joy or logic or math? Information, consciousness, volition, will, those are critical things that we can do, and it's all with a non-material mind. This matter and energy cannot create any of that. The basis of evolution is matter and energy, and it cannot create any of those things up above. So we got a conundrum here. If those things above exist, evolution can't be true. DNA, probably heard of that. That's the storage of complex information. That's required for life. For life, we've got the building blocks called amino acids. It's got to be the right number. They got to be in the right order. They got to be bent, twisted, all that sort of thing. Here we see some examples of them because of the communication and stuff that goes there. An information designer and maker had to exist. A mind is required. Now on those amino acids, they make the proteins in our body, and there's anywhere from 50 to 50,000 amino acids in a protein. So I've got the very healthy candies here. No. if I'm going to reach in and pull out 4, but I want them to be the precise shape and the precise colors, what's the odds of me pulling out 4 that will be the 4 that you would tell me I had to pull out? Well, I got 2 green and 2 yellow. That was none of what anybody would have probably thought to tell me. Here's what the statistics are. I would have to reach in here, whatever 4 colors you told me to pull out, 160,000 times approximately to get the 4 that you wanted me to pull out. Well, I got 2 green again and a blue and a red, you know. It's statistically impossible for me even to pull out 20 in the right order. And if I want to make the smallest amino acid, it's a 10 followed with 65 zeros, the number of times I'd have to reach in there to make an amino acid the smallest protein out of 50 amino acids. So that first tool of evolution is not an answer. It's not random chance, is not a possibility. What are mutations? Well, something's missing in the DNA, something's broken, something's extra, accidental, purposeless, basically loss of information. Very few examples of gaining of information, and those generally don't stick in the group. Here's over 6,000 known diseases that are genetic problems. And you see the half a dozen I got up there, those only have one amino acid out of order. Most amino acids are anywhere from around 400 or 500 in length, some up to 50,000. Any one out of order, and those were the diseases that it created. Precision, information ahead of time. What about natural selection? I thought, man, that's the big winner in this evolution stuff. But those 2 words do not tell me what or how or why something happens. Nature and the environment have no mind. They are not conscious. They are not conscious. They have no mind. And again, you don't have to take notes on this. I'll gladly send these slides all out to you so you got them for review and stuff. Just get your name signed up on the list there. Without a mind or consciousness, they can't select, adapt, modify, none of these things that we're normally told that natural selection can do. But we know there's something going on, it's just not natural selection. What really is it? It's something that's called continuous environmental tracking. So the mutations, the random selection, the random chance, mutations, and natural selection aren't working, but continuous environmental tracking does work. And that's how all organisms adjust to the environment. And it's based on engineering principles. And it had to be designed by a mind and pre-programmed in. It's that non-material stuff again. And its sensors is the first engineering principle here. How many senses do we have? Anybody? 5 is what we all talk about. And yet you start thinking about it, there's dozens, there's hundreds of them, and then there's a whole world we hardly even think of, and then your thinking process comes in, the thoughts you have major impacts on our body and stuff. All of this, that Creator has pre-programmed into us. This could not happen by mutations, random chance, or natural selection. So, we are created to actively detect and solve challenges. It isn't the environment that's controlling us. And we gather these things, we make decisions, and we respond to them. So, second aspect of engineering is logic program. If-then thing like in a computer, that's in our mind. and then how we respond to it. Two, hey, it's nice and cool in here. Oh, in fact, old guys like me like to put a coat on when it gets this cool, almost. No, not quite. But. So, these are engineering principles. They're all predictable. They're repeatable. This is something that evolution doesn't have, is repeatable and predictable. The solutions precede the challenges. They're not due to them. So, when we hear those words, natural selection, or we read them, it's really continuous environmental tracking. And if you go to ICR.org, Dr. Randy Galuza's got a lot more information on this. The internal mind is required to make information. An eternal mind. And the only one that matches that criteria is the God of the Bible. So what does science say? No. It could not make, the daisy couldn't be made by evolution. What does God say? Well, evolution isn't the answer. The first and second laws of thermodynamics said that everything has to be created or eternal. And our history source is the Bible. A non-material eternal mind can only do this. And he says he created everything, and he did it because he wanted to. And so we've got creation plus a will here. Both the information of creation and the will are non-material things that matter and energy cannot create. So God says, no, the daisy didn't make itself, I made it. Bottom line, we've got two possibilities of origin. Everything it made itself, natural processes, evolution, etc., or a creator made everything. If we looked at the science I just went over, it has to be a creator who made everything, who was eternal. And he exists outside the limitations that we normally think of. We're limited to space, matter, time, energy, physics, chemistry, those kind of things. God is outside of those limits. He created those limits. And there's a whole bunch of more things about God and stuff that we're not going to go into tonight, but I like the all-perfect part because I'm far from that. God's mind is the source of information. He's the eternal cause of all things. He's the originator. And I don't know if you want to believe me or not, when the man I was with that was that great law enforcement investigator told me this stuff, I knew he was all wet. And it literally took me about 3 years of developing a deep respect for how he solved law enforcement cases that I finally opened up my mind. I started listening to him, and when he'd keep asking me questions about nature and stuff that I couldn't answer, but God had the answers for, it took me over 3 years to get my thinking opened up. So if what I just told you totally disagrees with you, that's all okay. I was there too at one time. It just took me time, and I hope you can share some of this with your friends. Again, get these handouts. So, now we're going to talk, I told you, we're going to talk about God first. Now, I think there's no doubt that God is real, and I hope that just showed you that it was. Amen. Now we're going to talk about his pharmacy that he created. And again, awe and wonder are part of this. And when you were at about week 21 in your mother, what she was eating started teaching you, oh, I like these things. And she probably was a chocoholic, so, anyhow. The Lord said, because of our sin and stuff, we can only live for 120 years. We're not going to be eternal. But how many of us are living healthy to 120? Here we got Moses, 120 years old. When he died, the Lord told him one day, you're going to go up to the mountain, and this is your last day. Most of us don't get told ahead of time, this is our last day. But his eyes were undimmed and his vigor undiminished. I'm very fortunate. The Lord has protected my eyes. I don't wear glasses. 3/4 of a century old, and thank you, Lord. The vigor, however, of mine has diminished some over time. And what I attribute that to is I'm not making my cells, my replacement cells, as well as I should. Very few cells in our body are more than 15 or 16 years old. A lot of them only live a day, 2, 3 days, 4 days. When it comes to our gut and stuff, the lungs, there's just a lot of stuff that's being replaced all the time. Some of you recall the space shuttle. 2.5 million parts. One of the most complicated machines at the time. Remember the Challenger? This is a facsimile of the O-ring that leaked. That big around, and kids could spread this out or whatever. That leaked, and what happened to the Challenger? It blew up. A couple of small tiles came off the wing of Columbia, I think it was, and it burnt up. So just a couple of those 2.5 million parts not working, one part not working, and you got problems. We've got lots of cell problems because we're missing parts. How many parts do we have? Our average, not the blood cells, but the rest of us, have about 6 billion parts per cell. That's a couple thousand space shuttles of parts in each cell. Awe and wonder, it's phenomenal. And we've got an assembly line making new cells, about 3.8 million cells per second. That's like 1.25 space shuttles made per second in numbers of parts. Is that awe and wonder? Yeah. Most of those are red and white blood cells and the lining of our gut, but other than that, just a whole lot of them got to be made right. So, do we have the components? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Are we putting those components on the line so they can be assembled? That's a huge assembly line, wouldn't you say? Some of you maybe heard of Reverend Reg out of Great Britain. Some of you probably also think that your stamina, strength, and eyesight have diminished over time. Well, here we got a picture of Reverend Reg, and the question is, how much do we have to change? Here he's at 60 years old, and there's at 109. That's how long he lived. You know, but Moses lived to be 120. That's what the Lord says possible. I don't know how long each one of us are granted. The Lord grants us so much time. But I think if we start putting the right nutrients into our cell making, we can be healthier during this amount of time the Lord is giving us. Two things. One, we can have a healthier gut biome, and that's where a lot of our immune system comes out of. And if we make accurately made cells, we're going to be healthier too. So I think all of those things fit together. So how many parts do we need? Well, there's 6 billion parts in a cell, but how many different ones? I don't know the answer to that. If you look on the internet, they say about 90 essential nutrients. 15 to 21 minerals, 13 vitamins, some proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Of course, those are complex. There's lots of parts there and stuff. And water will kind of keep you going. I want to go healthy, though. I think there's actually thousands and thousands of more things that we need to be eating to make accurate cells. They're finding 1,000 to 1,500 new plant things a year that might be helpful for us. We won't be eating all of them, but they're learning about it. In 2007, I had prostate cancer. I had surgery. They weren't able to get all the stage 4 cancer. They offered me chemo and radiation, and I had 5 MDs I was bedridden 18 years ago right now, okay? They offered me the chemo and radiation, but they couldn't even tell me how to get my energy up to get out of bed. And I thought, I need somebody that knows what's going on. A couple of my sisters lived about 50 miles apart. I got 7 sisters, so just a couple of them lived about 50 miles apart. Each had an organic dairy farm, but they had the same feed salesman. He's about 80 years old, working full-time. And I was down visiting one of my sisters and got to meet him. And he said, you know, if you were a cow, I'd get you up and going in about 9 months. Says it takes 9 months to make a baby, it takes 9 months to make a calf. You're making so many new cells, I think I can get you up and going in 9 months. And I said, tell me about it. The doctors, I haven't got my answers. And he said, start eating evaporated seawater, and you guys have all had a sample of that, I hope, tonight. Start eating the deep sea kelp and do magnesium chloride foot soaks. He said, you gotta have your minerals up, because your minerals will not work. If you do not have the minerals, the right minerals, your vitamins and enzymes and lots of other things cannot work in your body. Okay? So they got to be all together. I got a blue star there because I think those are the 3 things. Prayer, and then once I was healed through prayer, then the evaporated seawater, deep sea kelp, and magnesium chloride turned out to be really important for me to get my mineral level up. Altogether, I think all of the minerals of the sea are what we need. When we look at man's way versus God, man tries to isolate 1 or 2 things that they found in nature, but then they try to make a drug out of it so they can make some money off of it, but it doesn't always work as good as natural. God has lots of things working together, sometimes in certain orders, just on and on. It's very complicated, as you're starting to see. And there's less side effects, less bad reactions, less cost. There's all kinds of ways for it to react, and it works on some of us that nobody else can figure out what's wrong with us. So, bottom line is, eat as God has made it, and eat a wide variety of things. When I'm researching this kind of stuff, I go to the National Library of Medicine for a lot of research. Okay. They got big, long words. I haven't got a clue. I mean, yeah, I got a lot of biochemistry behind me and stuff. I still haven't got a clue of what they mean. When you read these things, don't look at those words. Look at the general concept they're teaching, or the general theme, and then say, how does that apply to my life? Oh, that might have some positive impact on this problem I've got. Oh, okay, and what is it? Oh, it's this food. Well, that's all you need to get out of that research. You don't care about all the big words and stuff. When I go to this website, there's 11 search engines. There's one on medicine, chemistry, and the third one on genetics are the 3 main ones I look at. There's 11 of them for you to choose from. And then these long words that who cares what they mean. I care about concepts and themes. But you put in one of those and you start searching. And you're going to find words like oxidative stress. Oh, I don't have enough electrons. And inflammation. Oh, I don't have enough electrons. Oh, I don't have enough electrons. I don't have enough variety of foods. Oh, okay. Here's one of those words, polyphenols. About 8,000 of them are known in plants now. And on a number of these slides down at the bottom, I'm going to have a web location that will give you some foundational information on the word polyphenol. And then you can see, oh, does this apply to my health? And so there's some search there for you. But bottom line, polyphenols lower our risk for or help us restore problems with these kinds of things that I've got listed here. And again, inflammation and oxidative stress show up again. I think if we got rid of those two things, a lot of our health problems would go away. So, now this is probably one of the hard slides of the presentation. Your body needs time to, you got to eat it, then your body needs time to digest. But here's the catch. You can only eat during about 8 hours of the day. You've got to give your body about 16 hours, 17 hours, maybe even 18 hours a day so that it can clean itself and it can restore itself, rebuild itself, it can rest. And this brain cleaning process, this getting rid of the things in the cells that we don't want, there's a word for you to search on to learn more about how your brain and the rest of your body can clean itself. But again, cut your eating down so it's, a lot of times I stop eating anywhere from 4 to 6 in the evening, and a lot of times don't start eating until 10 the next morning. And I start right away in the morning when I get up with 2 glasses of warm water with a little of the evaporated seawater in it. Phenomenal what it'll do for my gut. I don't know what it'll do for yours. Now here's the hard part. People say, oh, I like that stuff on the left. I like those diseases. Yeah, you do. I'm glad you do. But if you don't like them too much, you might try eating more plants. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to start eating a lot of plants, but over time you can build into this, okay? And raw, steamed, sauteed, those are the kinds of way to prepare it, a lot of your foods. And then start giving your body rest. Don't eat the same things all the time. I have Wheaties for breakfast every day of my life. No, I might have oatmeal frequently, but you don't want the same thing all the time. If you ate carrots today, skip a day. Let your body start looking for what's in carrots. Oh, then a day from now, 2 days from now, you can eat carrots again. Oh, my body got what I want. I'm happy. Fruit, skip 2 days in between. I still like the apple a day philosophy, but they recommend that you skip 2 days in between each kind of fruit, but eat a lot of variety of different fruits. Oh, I almost forgot. Start using a wide variety of herbs and spices. Herbs and spices. All kinds of little things we have no clue of how they help us, but I think there's parts in there that our cells need that we're not getting, so that means we're aging, okay? Other phenols. I don't know how to pronounce that word for sure, but there's a couple of sites that help you learn about it. The flavonoids, there's 10,000 plus in the plant world. Those are the coloring things of the plants, for instance. And another beginning research place. Oh, I like things that are easily absorbed and my body can really use them well. There's a whole list of things you can do. I mentioned you got the chance to try the evaporated seawater earlier. In the 1940s, there was an eye, nose, throat doctor that said, there's no reason for my patients being as sick as they are. It was Dr. Maynard Murray. He spent 9 months traveling the world, traveling the oceans, I should say, studying what's going on in the oceans. At that time, he found no cancer or artery problems in the ocean. Today, closer to shore, we've polluted everything in the last 60 years to the point where there is cancer and stuff in the ocean now. Also, interestingly, if he took a cow and her calf and examined the muscle, these are land animals, there was aging. The cow's muscles were older than the calf's. If he took a whale in the ocean where it's got all of the nutrients, all of the organics, all of the minerals, all of the stuff it needs, that mama whale could be 50 years old. She had not aged, nor had her baby. That's a huge difference. And he attributed that to the fact that there were so many minerals and so many organics in the sea. And that's what's in the evaporated seawater that you got a sample of. Since then, they've found over 28,000 different marine products that our bodies can use. Remember continuous environmental tracking. All of those things our body is checking on, changing to. I think if we provide the right nutrients, we can have our bodies keep us a little healthier than what we're doing on average right now. Here's a couple of things that are working together. Cobalt. These are all the minerals that work together with it, and I think there's 5 of them I've got in italics because they're not listed as essential yet. I'm going to talk about a couple of them in a little while. I think they're very essential. Selenium. Remember I said you don't eat the same thing every day? I eat Brazil nuts twice a week. I have 3-4 Brazil nuts twice a week as my selenium source. You can do whatever you want with that. I wouldn't eat them every day, but I want that selenium and stuff. So, what is this evaporated seawater that he found? I don't know who he knew, but he got the Navy to bring him 600 samples of seawater from around the world. You got to know somebody to get the Navy to do that for you, okay? He studied those. He found 2 locations where there was an exceptional amount of minerals. One was in the Sea of Cortez, and that's where this salt comes from, this evaporated seawater. The other was off the west coast of South America. There's a small area. But those things have all these minerals. They have these organics. And yet some of us go and eat salt from a salt shaker. The traditional salt's got a lot of sodium chloride, basically few other minerals or no other minerals. If you look at some of these examples here, pink Himalayan is touted as so good. If we have this much salt, if we got this much salt, there's less than 3% of it that's other minerals. You see how little would be in that much salt? I've got some other examples here. That Malden natural sea salt, no, that's Morton. There's Malden here too, and there's a bunch of them you can look at. Most of them have had all of the minerals stripped away from them. But again, I put a 1/4 teaspoon of that sea salt in my drinking water, every quart of it that I drink. I want those minerals, I want those organics. Okay, vanadium. I looked at over 75 analyses of different sea salts that are sold around the world. Not a one of them mentioned vanadium, okay? And yet, for cholesterol and insulin control, that is one of those little micronutrients that plays a role. There's a bunch of it in the evaporated seawater. There's none of it in any other sea salt that I could find. And yet, how many people do you know with high cholesterol or diabetic insulin problems? And maybe vanadium plus a dozen or 2 dozen other things might be why that gradually broke down for them. Magnesium, that was foot soaks, was one of the things the feed dealer told me to make sure I started doing. And it's the #1 mineral used by enzymes in our body. #1 mineral used by enzymes in our body. And those foot soaks make a big difference for me. I did a study with 560 people, I think it was 2014 and 15, And 78% of those could tell me things that improved because they started doing 20 and 30-minute foot soaks. I do 3-4 in a row, 3-4 days. I skip maybe a week, then I do 3-4 days again. So, simple thing you might want to consider doing is replace the salt you're using with this evaporated seawater. Costs you maybe 10 bucks a year. I don't know, maybe you like all those other diseases. I like to maybe feel a little better. It was the 8th month, like the 2nd week of eating those 3 things and some other stuff, that all of a sudden my stamina came back. I could work a 12-hour day again. Okay, this is some of the deception I see downtown. Purified sea salt, untreated, phenomenal. That's got to be really good for you. So let's look at the analysis. Sodium chloride, salt, 99.7. And what was God's? 76% sodium chloride. Do you think something's missing in their salt? Do you think they've stripped that all out of there? They don't tell you what they've stripped out. They just say, well, we didn't add anything. That's not sea salt anymore as far as I'm concerned. I want what the Lord made, evaporated seawater. The kelp, another one of those things that the feed salesman told me to start doing. Iodine source for me, for anybody. The company says just use a pinch a day. And for most people, that's going to be fine. But for myself, I had lots of brain fog after my surgery. I had ringing in my ears. I had no stamina. I was bedridden. These all went away as I upped my kelp. Eventually I got to over a half a teaspoon a day. Way too much according to what I know 3 of the researchers at Thorvin that makes this kelp. And they just say you can't have that. I worked my way back down, but for a while I needed that much. And then for the last 15 years or so, I still need over 1/8 of a teaspoon a day. That's very unusual. That's me. Most of you are going to get by with just a pinch a day. Does it taste good? No. Put it in some hot food. Cover it up. Hide it. But start with a pinch a day. If you're taking extra iodine, you need magnesium and selenium to go with that. Those are going to work together. Now look at here. Are you getting enough iodine from plants? That helps your liver control how much cholesterol you should be making. Oh, would that have a factor on you? Or how about plaque buildup in your arteries? Iodine's evolved again there. So, it's got to be from a plant source is the main catch there. And it's going to cost you maybe $4 a year. And if you drive through one of these places to get coffee or hot chocolate or something, that's about $4. I don't do that, but anyhow. Blue Ridge Mountains, love them. Oak, poplar, all the various conifers, they're giving off some volatile things that split the sunlight so you see the blues and that haze. Just beautiful. Oak being one of those. Here's a place to go to for some more information on this. But how many people that are diabetic have you heard have trouble healing? There's things in oak that can restore that healing pathway for diabetics. And there's a whole bunch more. Everything from liver protection to gut protection, on and on and on, that oak can help with if you're interested. Okay. These are a whole list of some simple things that are readily available. I hope you like at least some of these things or can learn to like some of these things. We're going to look at garlic in a little more detail. It's a sulfur source. Very little research done on sulfur. Maybe 100,000 studies at the most. There's no money in selling sulfur, so they don't research it. But I think sulfur is way underrated for our health. You can look at more information on it down below there. When you got some cloves, put them on a cutting board, take the flat of your knife and smack it down and let it sit for a minute or so. There's a whole lot of chemistry that's going to take place there that makes that more nutritious for us. God's got that all stored up, protecting it, because it only lasts a couple days after it's smashed. So it's all stored up, it's protected, smash it, get it available, and enjoy it. And these are the kinds of things the research shows that garlic can help with. Remember, it's a big sulfur source. So let's look at sulfur. Oh, you can't make a vitamin or an enzyme work without a mineral. Sulfur is one of those minerals that vitamin C requires. And here's a number of other minerals that fit together. But without adequate sulfur, sulfate, you're going to have plaque buildup, you're going to have toxins remaining in your body. Not good stuff. So again, I think sulfurs are important there. Okay, what about sunlight, sulfur, and cholesterol? Let's put those three together, and we're going to find out that they make cholesterol water soluble. Remember, every cell in your body needs cholesterol. It isn't the bad guy. Oxidized stuff is a problem, but regular cholesterol that becomes water and fat soluble through the sunlight, along with the vitamin D and the sulfate. That's what we need to keep our artery walls healthy. Again, I am not medically trained. These are only things that I have used to help myself. When I look at those studies, I look for themes, I look at what's going to help me, and that's how I get this. And that's why first of all, I react bad to milk, so I only eat fermented dairy products. But secondly, I would not drink pasteurized milk because they've destroyed it. And it destroys the vitamin D3 sulfate, for example. And then that is going to be cholesterol making problems for you. 50% are low on this. Well, too bad they're drinking pasteurized milk. Anyhow, ascorbic acid, I think that's important. I use about a gram twice a day. I think that's how important it is for my body. I don't know how important it'll be for your body. But that's where my body gets the free electrons to protect itself. Here's something I just visited with one of my doctor friends while I had my annual physical a few weeks ago. He was unaware of this even. The half-life of ascorbic acid is 30 minutes if oxidative stress or inflammation or the need for these free electrons is in big demand. The need for the free electrons in big demand, and you got to start dumping it in there in quantities enough so it can pull the free electrons off, and the excess goes out in your urine. That's called bowel tolerance, taking a bunch. Eventually your stool loosens. That means, oh, I'm up the top, I better back off a little bit. I don't like over loose stools, okay? They say that ascorbic acid can be recycled about 4 times in the body. Oyster mushrooms and boletuses have antioxidants that can be recycled 20,000 times in the body. So how much oyster mushroom or boletuses are you eating? Oyster mushroom was one of the first ones I learned to identify and pick in the wild. And you look at like a box elder tree with an injury on it and it's got a mushroom up in there in September, that might be an oyster mushroom. Many values from mushrooms, and here's a website to help you learn how to identify, etc. Raspberries. we're just a couple of weeks away from good fresh raspberries, you know, where you can go out and pick them yourself. The ellagic acid was something that I researched when I was fighting my cancer, and I thought was going to be very important for me. It's important for the plant because the plant that has ellagic acid increased in it can tolerate not having all of the nutrition that it needs. It's a protector for the plant, and I felt it was a protector for my body and fighting my cancer. Pomegranates are another good source of this. But here's some of the diseases that they associate with raspberries maybe helping. And I think there's at least a half a dozen different cancers are the common ones that respond to the ellagic acid. Okay, now I'm going to talk about two plants we are not very commonly familiar with. Moringa, it's a superfood. It grows in poor soil, drought resistant, fast growing. All parts are edible. That's kind of ideal, huh? And in the warmer parts of the world where the majority of the people live, this stuff will grow. Last winter we were down in Fort Myers, Florida, and you could just pick it and eat it. I got a little bit over there, but not much. Anyhow, lots of things this is good for that they're researching on. Here's why they're researching on it. Look at all of the different, how rich it is in nutrition. And it is a good meat substitute. Poor areas that maybe you can raise a goat or a chicken or no meat, this is a really easy meat replacement source for the amino acids. Second one I want to tell you about quickly is black cumin. Doesn't taste like cumin powder, totally different, not even related to the cumin we're familiar with. But look at there, it's one of the daisies. You could have drawn that when I told you to draw a daisy, okay? They found that if patients who are having chemotherapy take black cumin, they can give them way less chemotherapy. Now that's going to cut down on the toxins, but they soon figured out it cuts way, way, way down beyond. You know, if they cut the chemotherapy in half, it doesn't just cut the toxins down by half, it cuts them way, way, way down. And so that was a real finding for them. And I don't know, there's probably 25 at least other major diseases that they have been studying intensely for the last 10, 15 years with black cumin. And I meant to have a bunch of the powder here, but last talk I gave, they took and bought it all, so I didn't have any for you tonight. I'm sorry. Dandelions, the disorder remedy. Is that what you call dandelions? I know my neighbor doesn't call them disorder remedy. He's got other names for them. Pick them from a pesticide and fertilizer-free area. And they work with our liver to restore that. You know, the liver responds to both the root and the leaves. If you're going to dig the root in the fall, it's got all the inulin stored in it. And here's a little recipe on how you can make infused vinegar. So you just take like a tablespoon of that a day and mix that in your water or something, and it'll help. Some of the other inulin sources, that's a prebiotic. That helps the gut work better, okay? Jerusalem artichoke, chicory, garlic, leeks. Again, get the handout, study this stuff. There's so much stuff in here. How to eat it, where to pick it. You know, if you pick it in the shade, it's not as bitter as if you pick it out in the bright sunlight. If you soak it in salt water for 15 minutes and boil it, most of the bitterness goes away even. But very, very healthy for you. Bottom line, I'm trying to get you to look at having a whole bunch of different things that you aren't eating right now. Sprouts, I had you try 2 different sprouted things tonight. How many of you have ever never had, I want to see all the hands. How many have never had sprouted lentils or sprouted hulless oats before? How many? There. Most of you have never had those. A sprouting bag will last you maybe 10 years. So, very simple. Those lentils, I soaked them, started soaking them yesterday about 3 o'clock, and here tonight already we're eating them. Great for a soup or a salad garnish. Put a little stevia on them if you want, different ways. Wheatgrass, the hulless oats, coconut oil, those are some common things that are really good for you. There's a thing called oil pulling. I don't have time to go into that tonight, but study that. There's a whole thing on bitters. And if you got any of these kinds of problems, you might think about bitters. And here's a list of them for you to look at. But bottom line is they're going to make your enzymes working better, your bile being produced better. Enzymes are our bank account. Most people at about age 40 start becoming low on enzymes. When do you think you start aging? About 40. We age a whole lot more than we did before 40, okay? So make sure we're getting enzymes every day. That's a whole big topic you want to study. And lots of different places to get enzymes for. Fermented and pickled foods, tablespoon even a day can make a big difference for you. Here's my simple recipe for making sauerkraut just on the kitchen counter. In 3, 4, 5 days it's ready. Good enzymes, good nutrition there. Now some of you are lazy, or you don't have the time, or you're traveling, or whatever reason, excuse me, for convenience. There's a product that I found called Absolute Greens. And this, I looked at lots of greens products. This is the one that I found is, I think, the best tasting, but also has the largest variety of things. And it's not uncommon for me to eat a scoop a day of that. And you can, this one's open, so you can take and look at it up here and stuff. There's more information on their website and stuff. Also, another resource for you to study there. I think they're $7 off. That's the cheapest you're ever going to find them for the Absolute Greens over there at the table. So, remember that correct foundation? I hope I've summarized this nice and accurate. God is the correct foundation, and in His creation there's a lot of answers for our health problems if we start eating a wide variety of good food. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I started out thinking evolution was the truth. The Lord guided me to a man that could teach me the truth, and I hope you could see tonight that random chance, mutations, natural selection, and time are scientifically impossible. And you can study that and find out there's so much more that is just impossible with that. It takes an eternal mind of our eternal God to make what we see today. So we'll have an offering and then questions and answers. Thank you.
Put a lot of work in that, so thank you for doing that. And also a thank you to everybody who made this possible. If you were a donor in the past, if you gave donations or were a member or bought stuff from our bookstore, that's what funds these speakers, so thank you for doing that. And also, I encourage people to become members. Can you guys hear this? Is this on? We're good? Okay. I encourage you to become members. That's $20 a year. Down in Houston, it's $50 a year. And I just encourage you to become a member, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be. And so we can just be part of the team. And it used to be you had to be in Minnesota to be on the team. But now with the technology, you can be anywhere in the world to be part of the team because we've got Give, Send, Go. They're in 83 countries. So if people are watching in Nigeria or wherever, we have gotten emails from Nigeria, then you can go into givesendgo.com and search TCCSA and you'll be able to give donations if you think this is of value and become a member. And also if you have, let's see, if you have, what are those things? IRAs. If you're sick of paying taxes, you can donate from your IRA to a tax-exempt organization like this one and you don't have to pay income tax on it. So you'll get more for your buck. And let's see, I also would like to thank people who promoted this. You knew this was coming, you didn't hide it under a bushel, and you let everybody know. Thank you. And also thank you to people who invited people or brought people. Do we have any first-time guests here today? Ooh, keep your hands up. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, praise the Lord. Thank you. How did you find out about it? Was it word of mouth or? It was, all right, 9. Good job. You're the what was that? The member of the day or whatever. So we have 9, all right. Oh, and our attendance is 84. It was 83 today, and it was 84 last month. Let's see, 9. We'll try and beat 9 next month. And 80 is really good. I've given talks at in these places in, let's see, Denver and Colorado Springs and Houston. And this crowd's the biggest, so good on you guys. So let's keep it going, but let's not get lazy on that and take a break, because we could do so much more. Oh, and by the way, I want to thank Ross and Dave. They're the ones who preserved this talk for future generations, and that is going to be a valuable talk. And so, yeah, that's going to be up on YouTube and Zoom. But with this technology, I can see really a lot of potential. I'm so excited for this club because we got the best message in the world. We got the best theories in the world. We're making accurate predictions. The evolutionists aren't. And we've got the best technology that's ever been to reach the world. And so I think we can use this club to reach a vast number of people and help them realize they've been misled by your government education system. And then when enough people realize that, we can have a revolution in scientific thought. And that's what we need, because the people on top, they got their power. They don't want things to change. So we just need to reach out and get people to understand what's happening. And so basically we need to start at the foundation, the fundamentals. Why bother with creation? This is class participation time. You know, for month after month, year after year, decade after decade, we've been given these creation talks. And thank you for the pillars in the past who've kept this club going. But why? Why creation? Why is creation so important in our society? Does anybody want to take a stab at that? Anybody at all? Yes?
Because God is so important.
Because God is so important. That's right. That's right. God the Creator. And if you reject God the Creator, what chance do you have in putting your faith in God's Son to pay for your sins on the cross? You know, it's like if you were, and somebody asked me this at St. Cloud State, it's like, what are you doing? Why do you do this? And I said, if you saw a blind man and he was walking towards a cliff, would you warn him? And he said, yeah. Well, I said, well, that's what I see. I see people who've been blinded and they're walking towards a cliff, and if nobody warns them, they're going to end up in hell. All right, so that's what motivates me. I don't know what motivates you, but that's a big motivator. What we're doing tonight has eternal consequences. You know, look how it changed Don's life. And there's example after example of creation making people look at an intelligent design and a creator and then becoming Christians. So that brings us to this. Basically, we have a handful of people right now who are doing a whole lot of work for the club. Just think if we had dozens of people doing this. So we've got, basically, this is our TCCSA club. We've got a bunch of people in the club and we got a few people paddling like crazy. Just think if we had dozens of people paddling. And so what I'm asking here is, who wants a paddle? We're going to have a sign-up list here. Put your name and your number or your email, and then we'll contact you, and we'll see where you can use your God-given gifts to help us reach more people. And that's what we really want to do, reach more people. And once you're using your God-given gifts to make a difference, that's where the real joy is. And so if you want to paddle, and if you're watching online, we can use you. I'll give you my email address is solidifyyourfaith@hotmail.com. And if you're in Nigeria or wherever, let's basically, for this to happen, for this to make a big difference, we just need to get a little bit more organized and a little bit more focused. And I think we can really, really make a difference. And so if you want to paddle, sign up. And then what do? You don't even have to be in the club to do this stuff. You got a computer? Go into YouTube, our YouTube channel, and subscribe to it, and then put notification. And that helps us show up on searches. And we've got, and check out, we've got 1,183 subscribers right now. Got 88 this year. But go into that YouTube channel because it's all broken into, it's like a library. Biology, geology, anthropology, astronomy, history, physics. It's all there in their own little playlist. And so share it, learn about it so other people can use it. And then also on Rumble, we got 111. Let's see, what else can you do? You can share this information on Facebook, on X, on whatever you're on, and also in emails. You know, in a day or two, this talk will be up on our YouTube channel. Who would like to get an email that says the talk's up, and here's the link to it, and you could get, here's highlights of the talk in 3 minutes, maybe a minute. Anybody want to get an email so you know how to use it? 1? Nobody? 2? Okay, nobody wants another email. Who would get upset if you got 3-minute emails from us in a month instead of 2? Who's upset you? It's like, I don't want to, I'll unsubscribe. Okay, so there's 2 people at least that would share it if they knew about it. Okay, what else can we do? Word of mouth, that's the best thing. Start talking to people about this. You know, we were at, where were we? Yeah, we were at, let's see, at Chick-fil-A today. And so I taped a creation poster to the back. And we did that in St. Cloud one time, and some people came up and asked about it. And so I did that in the airport in Houston. I had the dolphin thing, and somebody came up and asked me, and he was going to South Korea. I gave my card, and he can watch the stuff. And so we need to be active and stand up for Jesus. Okay, and what else can we do? At TCCSA, it specifically says in our mission, we're supposed to reach the youth and the pastors. So if you have any ideas on how we can reach them better, let us know. And also talk to the youth groups, especially next week, you know, next month. That's going to be a good one. And pastors, see if you get it in the bulletins. There was a church that asked for one of our posters that we can do that. Because what we do, we have a club in St. Cloud. We met last week, and then we promote this talk at our club. And they wanted some of the posters, and then we need to reach out to the homeschoolers. I probably posted this talk on 40 homeschool pages from Miami to Honolulu. And just we can get active on that. College, we really need to reach them. You know, we can have table, and we can have a table at Northwestern and Bethel whenever we want. We just need people to sit there and talk about creation and do it. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't done it, you don't know what you're missing. And also we need professors to give extra credit for coming to here. If you know any professors, see if they would, because the students at Northwestern don't know we're meeting every month. They have no idea. Emily did a great job getting it announced at chapel and stuff and doing her events, but then COVID hit, so we're starting again. So if anybody knows students at Bethel or at Northwestern, we should get those clubs running again. And then also, is it Rodney? He gets these things on our community calendars on the radio. And I didn't even thought of that. But if you can do something for free to promote TCCSA, you got my blessings. And also the clubs. Could you imagine if every library within 50 miles had a creation club last week and did something and brought people to this thing? Could you imagine that? We'd fill up this room. There's no reason why we can't fill up this room. And if you're a pastor, you know, you could have it next week, because we're really losing the battle. You know, this world is a mess because there's a battle between God's truth and Satan's lies. And ground zero for that is creation. And we need to get pastors to understand that. And if they don't do it, then start your own. And if you want to see what we're doing up at St. Cloud, I've got a YouTube channel called Solidify Your Faith. We've been doing it since September. It's Creation Science 101. And we're just doing a topic every time. And so if you don't know what to do at your club, just play one of those. Or there's other videos out there. All right. Okay, so now, let's see. Next month is going to be, take out your calendars, go into July 16th, 7 o'clock. Take out your calendars and put TCCSA, and then put a name next to it. Somebody you love being with, but you never have time for them. Or somebody you're praying about. You know, they've messed up their life because they've rejected God, the Creator. Put that name and just give them a call and say, I was thinking about you. How would you like to go out to eat Tuesday the 16th, and then we can go listen to a creationist. Dr. Cazell is coming here. And he's going to be talking about from Darwin to dictatorship, which is very applicable to this where we're living now. And he's got personal experience from Eastern Europe. And so that's going to be a good talk. And the last time he was here, we interviewed, 2 years ago, in 2022, we interviewed him, put that interview up on YouTube, and YouTube censored it. And yeah, that's right. And nothing bothers me more than censorship, because it violates somebody's right to say it. And even more importantly, it violates everybody else's right to hear it. And if you want to hear that, we put it up on Rumble. So you can go into our Rumble channel, and there's a button that says videos. Click on the videos, and then it's a filter on how you want them ordered, and then click view count. And he'll pop right to the top by far. He's got almost 8,000 views there. The next highest is 500. So I encourage you to listen to what was censored, what don't they want you to know. And for me, if they're going to censor something, I'm going to push back twice as hard. So I'm going to be working extra hard to get people to listen to Dr. Cazell. I don't know if you remember Jerry Bergman Day. We had like 167 or something like that. Well, let's have a Dr. Cazell Day, and let's get as many people as we can there tonight. So real quickly, thank you for everybody who's participated in whatever you've done. If you've prayed, if you've given, thank you very much. And if you want to paddle, if you want to help this canoe get a little farther and make a bigger impact in the world, just sign up. And with that, we'll pass it over to Don. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for, yeah, it's on. Is it working? Is this working? Yeah, there it goes. Got to warm up, I guess. Thank you guys, all of you. You know, even with 7 sisters, it's all guys anyhow. They always hated me for that, but just how, this cut out again? No. Okay, thank you for being here. Apply these things, just one now and then. Start expanding your repertoire of what you're eating, and maybe it will help you. I don't know how to simplify it more than that. God has really put a lot together. Brian, you got a question?
Yeah, have you met other people that have had good success with that intermittent fasting? I met somebody in Wisconsin. It helped his kidneys. You know, they told him his kidneys will never get better, but he only eats 4 or 5 hours a day, and it's got better. That was surprised him. But have you met more people that have had success? Okay,
the question was, does this eating only 8 hours a day help other people? And that brain cleansing system is going to kick in for most people if you're only eating 8 hours a day or less. Brian was giving a very unique example of help with kidneys. You know, our liver will regrow and stuff, but kidneys is a whole different touchy deal. And the man was eating only 4 to 5 hours a day, and it was helping his kidneys. I think the cells are being replaced in the kidney too, so why not replace them with good cells? And maybe we don't even begin to understand the kidney all that much about it not being able to be repaired. Maybe God's got stuff there for it that could be repaired if we can only find what He's got out there in the plant world and stuff. And also sometimes the soil makes certain things that we need, but then they have to be taken up by a plant, and then we finally get them and eat them. So the soil is a whole big another topic. I stayed with plants tonight, but the soil and what it's making and stuff, and what the plants can take from that and bring to us and mix with sunlight and carbon. Phenomenal how that helps us. We've got time for maybe 2 questions or so.
Oh, you got 13 minutes. No? Oh, I'm sorry. That's a 2. Okay, 2 questions.
I am no expert on anything, so I was hoping not to do 13 minutes of questions. Anyhow, yes.
If you were trying to reach your athletic ceiling, would there be anything that you would add to that to reach your peak athleticism?
I could, you know, I might have good eyesight, but my hearing is horrible. I missed about 3/4 of the words you said. Could you try that again?
Sure.
Or somebody down here, could they repeat?
He said if you wanted to reach your peak athleticism, would you modify anything that you said tonight if you want to excel in athletics? So what would you do differently?
With excelling in athletics, every once in a while you hear about a young person, an athlete in their prime, 18 to 25 or whatever, just dropping over dead. On autopsies on almost every one of them, they were short on magnesium. Magnesium, the #1 enzyme worker. So, for athletics, I would try to get my mineral level up. That allows my enzymes to work better, that allows my vitamins to work better, it allows lots of things to work better. So I would be looking at the C product just as a simple start and build from there. I would try to go with a wide diversity of plants that I was eating also. Wide diversity. Most of us probably maybe 50 or so different kinds of plants. Expand it to 100. Expand it to 200 or 300. That's going to take some real effort on your part to be able to accomplish, to get to actually 200 or 300 kinds of plants to eat. But if you can get to 100, that'd be way better than most people. Is that anything helpful? The minerals are the foundation there, I think. And then diversity, very diverse food sources. Somebody else? Yes?
I can be kind of lazy. And, I went to a naturopath a couple years ago for a stomach gut issue that I had that the medicine couldn't solve. Gastroenterologist that had appendectomy. She solved it. She prescribed digestive enzyme, probiotic, some other digestive thing, and an infection killer. And so I've been taking digestive enzyme every day and a probiotic. I'm thinking about the idea of substituting absolute greens instead of the probiotic. What do you think of that idea?
I think, let's see, how would I look at that? His question is, he's currently taken a probiotic and some enzymes and substituting the absolute greens. I guess I wouldn't mess with what you're already taking. I would look at the absolute greens. The way I look at it for myself is, this is just another vast source of, yes, some enzymes, but also many micronutrients that I otherwise wouldn't be eating. That's how I would look at that.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'd keep taking the enzyme, but the probiotic.
The probiotic is something that's going to help your gut work better, and it was gut issues that you were looking at solving. And so for myself, in early November through about April, Jerusalem artichokes are available. Good source of inulin. Digging a bunch of dandelion roots this fall. Good source of inulin. Those are two of the bigger sources. Yeah, garlic and leeks and some of those things have some, but nothing like those two. I would look, boy, I told you I'm no expert on this. I'm just thinking that, there's a number, I would love to say, oh, these are 6 really good probiotic or prebiotic things that I would be eating. And right off, I can look through talks I've given, but I can't tell you those right off. But prebiotics is where I would be looking at increasing through a food source.
Yeah.
I gave you a couple that you said in the past on green bananas, cooked potatoes, and cooled, and then eaten cooled. Those are a couple I can remember.
Okay, yes. And the green bananas, thank you, Lisa. The green bananas, yes. And the cooked potatoes, if you cool them down for like 12 hours or whatever, a whole lot more of that becomes resistant starch. It means it won't be digested in your gut. It's going to go into the colon. The bacteria in there is going to digest it and use it, okay? So that's what you're trying to do, is feed that colon bacteria better. Psyllium husk. That was another one that just came to me that's a good prebiotic. There's a bunch of them. If you just look up, that's a good keyword to look up. What are the prebiotics and how can I eat more of them from natural food sources? That's a really good question. Thank you. Again, I'm no expert. Oh, Dr. Ross, we talked about a couple things ahead of time, and I will turn off because you got it on.
Yeah, I'm Ross Olson. I am a medical doctor. At least I used to be. I'm retired. Also a former medical missionary. And I had a question for Don, and he said, why don't you come up and say it from the front. One comment about my missionary time in Hong Kong. For the Chinese, the borderline between food and medicine is fuzzy. And I would take care of a patient and they would say, doctor, what should I eat? They would categorize it differently. They talk about cooling foods and heating foods, and it's not temperature and it's not spiciness, but it's a different concept. But the question I had for Don is things that are made by plants that don't seem to have any use for the plant and yet are useful for human beings. Now, the cinchona tree makes quinine, which kills parasites. You know, and we can use that because it killed malaria until malaria became resistant. But and so that can help the plant too. But digitalis is made by foxglove. I take digitalis; it slows and strengthens my heartbeat. The foxglove doesn't have a heart. So the question is, why does the foxglove make digitalis? I think this is an unusual proof of creation. I think God put it in there for us to learn about and understand. You take too much digitalis, it stops your hearts. So you have to know how to use it. God, I think, gave many things to plants to make for us.
Thank you, Dr. Olson. Yes, there's so much to study and learn. I think of a couple of law enforcement, when you say digitalis and foxglove, I think of a couple of murders. Just because, like you say, too much going to stop the heart, and that's a hard one for numbers of years ago, let's say 30, 40 years ago when I started and stuff, for the people to find and prove as that's how they killed the person. But no, digitalis is something that can be very positively used. It's just like, what's the other, I forget. Women who lose men or lose male children are a lot of times low on this. And it's the common poison in some of the old, arsenic, there we go. I don't know who said that. I just was having a senior moment there of arsenic. But women who have miscarried sons a lot of times are low on arsenic. And if you look at the Native Americans, they drank white pine needle tea to overcome that. And there's some other good things to search on white pine needles and the tea. That's all. You know, we could have a half-hour talk just on white pine needle tea. That's simple. Go pick some needles from trees that aren't around where there's a lot of pollution and stuff. Most people don't spray those trees, so they're pretty much organically growing. And make yourself some white pine needle tea. But take and start looking it up, and you're going to find quite a variety of value from white pine needle tea, not only for the arsenic. Okay, somebody else with a question. Again, I'm far from an expert on anything. Go for it.
So, would Dead Sea salt be a good source for magnesium chloride for soaking your feet, or what do you use?
Okay, for soaking my feet, there's two sources that I like. One is the magnesium chloride from the Dead Sea. I remember floating in that thing, and I meant to bring them tonight, but I couldn't figure out where I put them. But I gathered some balls of magnesium. If you stick your feet down, you'll feel the balls of magnesium in the Dead Sea. That's how much there is there. That's one of the reasons why you're floating and stuff. But Dead Sea, and then the magnesium that is pumped out of the ground in Holland. And for a few years, the country of Holland shut that down because they were afraid it's going to make them sink more because they're pumping so much of it out of there. But the Dead Sea is a real nice source for it as far as I'm concerned. And it's going to be the magnesium chloride. And some people say, well, what about Epsom salts? Epsom salts is about 11-12% magnesium. Magnesium chloride is about 25%. And you want a 2% solution. That means a quarter cup in 3 quarts of water, so it'll soak through your skin, absorb in it and stuff. And he says that was my last question. So thank you again.